A couple of days ago, Axios released a poll that they had done regarding this new Democratic talking point called abundance. It's been around for a little while now. Kamala Harris was running on it. And honestly, to me, it is just rebranded neoliberalism. See, the abundance idea is that, and it was written by these two guys, Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson. And Ezra Klein has been doing the media circuit defending his book about abundance, and it's not going too well because their idea is that the reason why we can't have nice things is because of regulation, too many regulations. And if we just manage to get rid of those regulations, then we can manage to do some amazing and great things. And to me, that just sounds like a fucking Republican talking point, because that's all Republicans have ever talked about: cutting taxes and deregulation. And this right here, this idea of abundance, if we could just get rid of some regulations, things would be great. It's just regulations on housing. We could just get rid of those regulations. We could make housing, so affordable, and we could get it out there. And instead of the Democrats running on, look, politics 101, you need a bad guy. You need a bad guy. And Democrats, their idea of running against the bad guy is just Trump bad, we're not so bad. And it is not really very effective now, is it? Hillary Clinton ran on it and she lost. And Kamala Harris ran on it and she lost. Joe Biden only won because Donald Trump fucked up the pandemic so goddamn bad. Everybody was just looking for a change. And when neither party seems to have a clear fix or a clear bad guy to go after. I mean, the reason why Donald Trump won, one of the reasons why, is because he had a bad guy. His bad guy, of course, was immigrants and trans people, which, by the way, neither one of those groups of people have any fucking power whatsoever. Who's got the power? The billionaire class. There's only one real conspiracy in America, and it's billionaires buy politics. We don't get what we need. They get everything that they need. And you saw that at the inauguration, where the richest billionaires in the country were right there in the front row for Donald Trump. So anyway, I'm going off on a little tangent here. But Axios recently did a poll, and check this out. It's pretty interesting. Democratic voters prefer a populist message over the one that focuses on the abundance agenda, according to the new poll by Demand Progress. Why it matters, I'm sorry, it wasn't Axios that did the poll, it was Demand Progress did the poll. Why it matters, Democrats are asking themselves some hard questions as they ponder how they lost the 2024 election. I can tell you that. You said we're not so bad. Trump's the bad guy. We're trying to save democracy by giving up democracy. And oh, by the way, we could give a shit about the genocide going on in Gaza. That's why they fucking lost. Simple as that. But on the economy front, some elected officials like Representative Jake Auchincloss of Massachusetts wanted to embrace a version of the abundance agenda that liberal writer Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson laid out in their new book titled Abundance. Klein gave voice to the abundance argument at a policy retreat for Senate Democrats. I'm sure they're the most wonderful Democrats. The Chuck Schumers, the Nancy Pelosi types, those centrist Dems. They ate this shit up with a spoon. Other party leaders want to focus their energy on challenging Donald Trump on the populist front. Now, I don't agree calling this populism, but okay, it's fine. We have to have a distinction between the two sides warring in the Democratic Party. Think of the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer tried to dare Republicans to vote against tax cuts for billionaires. Yeah, man, I'm sure that worked out. It worked out really great considering that they just passed in the House. So Yeah, man. Chuck Schumer, he's batting 1,000. We're gonna fight. We're gonna win. You lost. You lost. You fucking lost. Anyway, driving the news, a survey of 1,200 registered voters, Demand Progress Advocate organization was designed to supply some hard data for the debate. It defined abundance argument by starting off with the sentence, the big problem is bottlenecks that make it harder to produce housing, expanding energy production, or build new roads and bridges. The abundance strategy is to get rid of the regulation around building houses. As opposed to, by the way, the Fair Cloth Amendment passed in the 90s got rid of government-built housing. So now we are relying on the market and private sector investors in building real estate. And what do? They build high-rise condos for the wealthy. They don't build stuff for regular folk. They know they can make more money by building housing for wealthy people, so they will continue to do that. That's the problem with the market. It does not give a shit about society. It just gives a shit about making money. So that's the problem with this. And getting rid of regulations is not going to fix the problem that we do not have enough housing in America that regular common folk can move into. I mean, for God's sakes, we have so many empty buildings in just New York City, for instance. And the reason why is because they're being used as tax shelters. And, I've heard people comment, it's like, I look at the New York skyline, it's not very bright anymore. Yeah, man, because nobody's living in these fucking apartments. They're just tax shelters for the wealthy. Meanwhile, the poor people are having to move out of the city and then commute in from further and further and further away because they cannot afford rent close enough to the city that they work in. But yeah, man, let's get rid of some regulation. That's going to fix it all. Meanwhile, like I said, the wealthy land developers or building builders, they are doing it for the money. So not having government being able to build housing is not, that's the problem. It's not that, if we cut a couple of corners here and there, we're going to have housing for everybody. That's not how it works in the private sector. You actually need government investment in it. And thanks to Bill Clinton and the Fair Cloth Amendment, we can no longer do that. You ever thought about rolling that back? Did Joe Biden roll it back? Did Barack Obama roll it back? No, they did not. Because they're all about that, that neoliberal, free hand of the market lifestyle too. No matter how the Republicans painted them as communists and socialists, they care more about private sector gains and big donations into their coffers. And like I said, that's the one conspiracy. Billionaires buy their politics. They buy both sides of the aisle and they get what they want. You and I cannot bribe a local politician because we don't have that kind of money, so we don't get the things that we need. Anyway, let me continue here. The populist argument was described as the big problem is that big corporations have way too much power over our economy and our government. Very simple. Very easy bad guy. Every normie person out there can go, yeah, man, they have too much power. These rich billionaire types and their corporations, they own us. It's very easy to have a bad guy like that and then get everybody on the same page. You start parsing out the minutia with this, let's get rid of these bottlenecks of these regulations, and then maybe, we'll get something done if we could just get, and by the way, the whole book, the Ezra Klein Abundance book, is placing the blame on liberal people in small neighborhoods that won't allow the NIMBYs, the not in my backyard. NIMBY, by the way, George Carlin, GOAT, he came up with that, not in my backyard. Well, these guys are going, YIMBY, yes, in my backyard. But yet again, they don't really seem to care about getting housing for the regular common folk. They seem to be, we just have an abundance of housing and then eventually it'll just trickle down on you. Boy, that sounds fucking familiar. By the numbers, 55% of all voters prefer the populist argument compared to 43% who said that it would be they would more likely vote for a candidate who offered the abundance agenda. So that's Republicans, independents, and Democrats. The preferences were even stronger among Democrat and independent voters. 72% of Democrats reacted positively to billionaires are bad guys, and the argument compared to 39% for Republicans, and it was over 50%, 55.4% for independents. Given a direct choice, 59% of Democrats prefer the populist argument compared to just 16% liking the abundance one, because they already see this. They already know. They already know. We have done this time and time again. We are allowing the free hand of the market to make decisions that are going to supposedly benefit us, but always seem to benefit the wealthy donors. And this whole idea of abundance is just third way Democrats over again. You know, it's just that centrist view. You know, maybe if we give a little to the Republicans and a little bit to the Democrats, then, you know, maybe we could ride that middle. It has never worked. You cannot run against a Republican as a Democrat conceding to the Republican on half of your points, because somebody who is in the voting booth is not going to go, well, they kind of gave a little, they're Diet Coke. I know, honey, they vote for the real thing. They want Coke. If you're a Republican and you have a choice between a centrist Dem and, who gives you a little bit, and a Republican who gives you all of the red meat you can chew on, that person is going to vote for the Republican. You cannot ride this fence. It does not work. And Ezra Klein, who, by the way, has gone on, like I said, he has gone on a lot of different talk shows, whether he's talking to Jon Stewart, whether he's talked to, I believe he talked to Mehdi Hassan, he talked to Sam Cedar of the Majority Report, and every last one of them was just like, yeah, man, but you're forgetting the one main thing. The one main bad guy is the wealthy landowner, the wealthy business owner. You are completely negating that side of the argument, and you're just boiling it down to a couple of regulations to get rid of. You are not first of all, it's not going to work. It's not going to fix anything. It's not anything different than the Democrats have been trying for the last 20 years. And it is going to succeed in you losing over and over and over again. Bernie Sanders, AOC, they are the face of the Democratic Party, and they are the ones that are pointing out who the bad guy is. It is the corporation and the billionaire class that is running our fucking government, and we, as regular American citizens, are not getting the things we need. We need housing. We need shelter. We need affordable food, affordable rent, and we need health care. And none of these things are being provided by centrist Dems or this abundant strategy. They're sure as shit not being provided by the Republican Party. So when are we going to try the right thing? We've been skirting around this issue for years. They called Bernie a radical in 2016. They called him a radical in 2020. AOC is running on the Bernie agenda, and she happens to be the most popular politician in Congress right now. Are you telling me that she, who has the most popularity and has the most name recognition with regular common Democrats, who, by the way, they just did a poll recently with AOC running against Chuck Schumer, and they did a poll of Jewish people, and Jewish people overwhelmingly picked AOC over Chuck fucking Schumer. Mr. I defend the Jews all day, every day. They're like, yeah, man, he's weak. He's not a fighter. He needs to go the way of the fucking dodo. AOC is our girl. We're going to vote for her. And that was for her running against him in a Senate race, which, by the way, I think if she ran, she would just beat the pants off of him. Although I think that her ambitions maybe, or leading up to a presidential run, that is a distinct possibility. But, that's not got anything to do with this point. The point I'm trying to make is that the Democratic population is leaning very heavily into the Bernie and AOC argument that the billionaires are the bad guys. And to keep it simple, like James Carville said, it's the economy, stupid. Keep it simple. Keep it straightforward. Give them something that they can understand, as opposed to parsing out this bullshit abundant strategy, which is just third way democracy all over again. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like and subscribe. Keep rocking.